On today's Newsmakers, a California baker has been embroiled in a years-long battle over the decision to decline making a same-sex wedding cake. Her attorney, Adele Keene, joins us today to talk all about Kathy Miller's plight, why she's fighting on, and why this case could make its way all the way to the Supreme Court. With no further ado, here is Adele Keene. I appreciate you coming on with me to talk about this case. It's an important case surrounding a custom cake artist named Kathy Miller. We have had her on repeatedly to tell her story before, but she has been locked in a legal battle with California officials for years now. Before we get into the most recent developments, can you tell us what started this battle?
Sure. So what started this battle is Kathy's faith. Kathy Miller is a woman of faith. She's also a creative person. She's had her hands in all kinds of things. She has been a wedding planner. She taught for years at a Christian school, and her dream was always to open her own custom bakery. So she did that in around 2012. But pretty soon, marijuana was legalized in California, and she realized that she had customers coming in and asking her to bake marijuana brownies and cookies or bachelorette party treats that were just not something that she, as a Christian, someone who dedicated her life to serving God and who dedicated her business to God, could be doing. So pretty soon, Billy, she ran into these conflicts. So she created what she calls the design standards. Her bakery is called Tastries, and she has these design standards. And she says, I want to make you something beautiful and delicious, but I will not do gory Halloween treats. I will not put Jack Daniels on your bachelor party cake or do adult-themed bachelorette party cakes. I have to honor the Lord because I'm using the creative gifts that he gave me. Well, not long after that, Billy, you can kind of guess the rest of the story. She had a gay couple come and ask her to make their cake. They were regular customers. She served them regularly and had made other things for them in the past. But when it came to making the wedding cake that was going to be the center of their celebration, she just didn't feel like she could do it. So she went back to this couple and said, it was two men. She went back to this couple and said, I'm so sorry I can't do this, but I want you to be taken care of. So I have a friend who's also a custom baker and does great work. Can I work with her and give your order to her so she can serve you? And Billy, you know what that couple said? They said yes. They said, sure, we understand. And they worked with other, and they actually came back to her and continued to be her customers for other treats. So that's where things stood in 2017. When Kathy knew she had standards that she had to follow, but she also wanted to take care of everybody who came through her shop. So she had set up this referral system. Well, a couple came into her shop and that system was not good enough for them. They had been on a quest. They'd gone to several custom bakers in town. They couldn't find a cake that matched their price point or that matched their dietary needs. So they finally came to Kathy. They made an appointment with her. They brought mother of the bride and best man and all their wedding party in for a tasting. And when Kathy realized it was for a same-sex wedding, she held their hands and she said, I'm so sorry. My faith does not allow me to help you, but would you allow me to pass this on to my friend who is another excellent baker who will take care of you? That time, Billy, the couple said no. They got angry. They filed a complaint against her. They ignited a firestorm on social media. They accused her of turning them away harshly, turning them away completely, which she hadn't been trying to do. She'd been trying to work with them and help them as much as she could in good conscience. And she has been in court ever since.
So, I mean, you're talking nearly a decade of fighting over this issue, and it has volleyed back and forth. Now, the California Supreme Court, they have refused to hear her plea to protect her business and her faith. Were you surprised by that decision?
Honestly, Billy, I'm not. The California courts have just put their fingers in their ears and said, la, la, la. The U.S. Supreme Court has said twice so first of all, let's back up. Kathy's being prosecuted by her own government. It's the California Civil Rights Department that has gone after Kathy, okay, for these past 7 or 8 years. During this time, this 7 or 8 year period, the U.S. Supreme Court has said twice in the wedding vendor context, when it comes to wedding vendors who have a conscientious objection, back off. Back off. They said that in Masterpiece Cake Shop, which also involved a cake artist in Colorado. And they said it in 303 Creative, which involved a wedding website designer. So the US Supreme Court has spoken very clearly, and California courts have not had ears to hear.
Why is that not set? So I think the rest of the public, anybody hearing this or watching this, they're thinking, well, why is this not settled then, right? If the Supreme Court has said these things, why do we still have people being dragged through the court system again and again and again and unable to sort of win these battles easily?
You know, California courts have acted as if California civil rights law is more foundational than the US Constitution. And of course, we know that that's not the case. We know that the US Constitution was intended to protect the rights of all Americans, no matter where they live in the country. They have a bedrock foundation of those federal constitutional rights. So I think there's two things that the California courts have done. One thing is they have said, we're going to treat our non-discrimination law, which is called the Unruh Act, as more foundational than the U.S. Constitution. And the second thing they've done is they've just put their hands over their eyes and refused to look at Cathy specifically. So throughout the case, they have California in its briefs have said things like, "Well, we can't let Cathy politely refer this couple to another baker who can take their case, because racist people in, the Jim Crow South sometimes did terrible things to people on the basis of their race and turned them away from their restaurants. So we can't let Cathy politely say, I can give you cookies and cakes and pies, I just can't make your wedding cake, because other people and other places and other times, and they'll expressly invoked this, have done bad things that Cathy's not guilty of." So there's been just an unwillingness to look at Cathy, who she is, how she's lived her life with integrity, kindness, and grace towards everybody. And Billy, I mean, they don't have to guess about this. California put her through a 5-day trial. And everyone who testified said Cathy employs everybody, no matter their beliefs or their race or their sexual orientation. And she serves everybody in her bakery. She has customers from all backgrounds, and she tries to treat them all with respect. You don't have to guess about Cathy. But that's the other move that California's done, Billy, is they've kind of said, we're not going to look at who Cathy is. We're going to look at our stereotypes about who other people are and what they might do.
What do they want from Cathy? So what would be the remedy in the state's eyes at this point? From her? Do they want to have they fined her? Do they want her to go through some sort of training? I know these are often the things that happen in these cases.
You're very well informed, and really, Billy, it's all of the above. I mean, they want to fine her. They want to stop her from doing any wedding cakes at all. If she doesn't do all the wedding cakes that the state wants her to do, she can't do any wedding cakes. And that ultimately would mean the end of her business.
Is her business currently affected as this is going on right now? Is she able to make wedding cakes? Has she had to pull back from that? How has this impacted her business?
Billy, it has impacted her in such profound ways. Tastries is still open. Your viewers can go online and look up Tastries Bakery in Bakersfield, California. You can see the beautiful treats that she has. But she has been the victim, and her employees have been the victims of such intense sexual harassment, such intense harassment and persecution because of her stand. So it's not just that she has been in court for 8 years. It's that every time California files a brief and compares her to, racist barbecue owners in the 1960s, she gets guys calling up the bakery and threatening to rape her employees, assault her. She gets stalkers who call and say, I know what you're wearing, and here's what I think should happen to you. And this is 8 years of this, Billy. She's had employees leave. She's had people she worked with, businesses that she worked with, say, we're not going to work with you anymore because we don't want to be in the spotlight like you're in the spotlight. And Cathy and her husband are men, they're man and woman of faith, Cathy and Mike, and they have stayed strong through all of this. They've done everything they can to protect their employees from all of this. And they literally physically, there were years where they didn't go on vacation, Billy, because Cathy wanted to be in the shop every day it was open to physically calm her employees in the face of all the harassment they were receiving. and to
You know,
protect.
as we're talking about this, obviously the California Supreme Court declining to hear it. What are the next steps? What is left for you to do? I assume, obviously, I've seen that you're going to go to the U.S. Supreme Court on this and hope that they take it up. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So Kathy's been in court for 8 years. She's been up to the California Court of Appeals twice. And she's gone to the California Supreme Court, and they said, we're going to take a pass. So her next stop is the U.S. Supreme Court. Her brief is due at the end of August, and we expect to hear sometime by early next year whether the U.S. Supreme Court will take up her case. And we really hope they do. It's just egregious the way that California has decided. I mean, one of the biggest population state in the country has decided that the U.S. Constitution does not protect its citizens.
You know, it will be interesting to see where this goes, because we've been through this rodeo a couple of times now with the Supreme Court on this issue. But it seems like California needs a very specific case involving California to go to the Supreme Court for California to maybe listen to what the court is saying. I would assume you would agree with that.
Absolutely. California feels very special, Billy.
Yeah, it's very interesting to watch this unfold, especially because, you know, this is a case too where she's forwarding the customers onto another baker. She's helping them. It's not like and again, even if she wasn't doing that, I think there'd be a strong case to be made that she's within her rights. But she was going out of her way, it sounds like, to help these couples find another place to go, and yet has spent almost a decade, not just in court, but being harassed by people endlessly, which is really, really unfortunate. Any final thoughts on this case, or any things you want to leave people with as they ponder what we've talked about today?
I just say pray for Kathy. Pray for Kathy and Mike. Pray for the people around them that have stood with them through all of this persecution. And if you have someone in your life who's taking a stand for their faith, you know, keep them in your prayers. Those are, you know, sometimes God calls people to take a stand for their faith and pay a high cost for it. So, you know, they need the people around them lifting them up in prayers. And that's what I would ask your listeners to do, is to keep Kathy and Mike Miller in your prayers.
Well, I so appreciate you taking the time, as always, to break this case down. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay. Thanks, Billy.
That's all for today's Newsmakers. Make sure you head on over to the CBN News YouTube channel and cbnnews.com for more of the news you need to read. We'll see you again tomorrow.